So the work I do is support K-12 education from our corporate headquarters, which is in California, mostly national programs, but everything we do is implemented locally where we have operations, and I'll go into why in a little while. And this picture, I actually love this picture. This is from South by Southwest EDU last year. For those of you that have been to the expo, we bring a large mobile fab lab. Fab Foundation is born out of MIT, and it's the premise behind learn how to make almost anything. So we've invested heavily in that program. But this young lady came with her school group and had a good time making and building. And I think you can't see it, but I think there's LEDs on those glasses that she had the opportunity to play around with. So I wanted to include that photo because I like it. So background. Chevron's been investing in education for as long as we can trace back, which is about 100 years. And before we were Chevron, we've been like every other oil company, been a lot of different names. So in the 20s in Standard Oil of California, we were called at the time, aviation was the newest technology that was coming out. And at the time, California Department of Ed was creating standards on aviation. So we actually took teachers out to an airfield. We helped support the standards and took teachers out to fly in an airplane so they could experience aviation. So it says about 800 people on a test flight, which kind of makes me laugh now because the thought of doing that now is like, that would not happen. But really it was, again, the latest technology, exposing teachers to it at the time. And then in the 50s, something that we would probably not do now is expose them to the energy sector and learn by doing kits, which were replicative of oil fields and refineries. Again, probably not something that we would do now, but the interesting thing is the learn by doing, because that's exactly what we are doing still now. Is we know that kids need and teachers need to experience things and learn by doing. So again, that's really just to show that we've been doing this for a very long time. I've been in this role for a little over 10 years and have had the opportunity to shape and change and grow programs that we've done, but it's very much a core value of our company. As I mentioned, I do the K-12 support, but we also partner with community colleges, universities, and then ultimately want them to either come to work at Chevron or come to work at other organizations or just generally be well-educated community. Diversity is at the core of all of these programs. It's not just a side project, it's really investments that we make. We look at the population that we're going to be supporting these programs through. So we think of diversity not just as gender, not just as color, but it's a socioeconomic, it's rural, it's disabled. It means many different things to us because there's a lot of the population that just doesn't, as we've heard from the previous speakers, that just do not have access to these types of programs, or the relevancy to them is not there. So we've, again, taken a very long-term approach to supporting education and a holistic approach as well. In this slide, I don't expect that you can read any of it, but it's really just to show, and it really should just say tomorrow's workforce, not just energy workforce, but it's just to show that we take a very holistic approach to our investments. We support policy such as next generation science standards. We invest in events that help spark an interest, such as South by Southwest or the USA Science Engineering Festival, or things like that can spark an interest. And then we look for programs that students can actually experience deep STEM learning in the classroom or in an out of school time setting. Again, we also work with community colleges through our university partnership program, and we support about 94 colleges and universities. And I want to stress that we don't create our own programs. We're not a company that's that's creating curriculum. We're not creating teacher professional development programs. We're not the education experts. All of the nonprofits and universities and schools that are doing this work every day are obviously the experts. So we're trying to support those organizations, and we do it through many different ways, not just funding, but partnering with those organizations. I mentioned that we support or nonprofits education in areas that we operate specifically, and we do that so that it can be everything from volunteers helping in classrooms to connecting them with potential other funders or other partners, or helping them with media training or social media. So we take a really intentional approach with the organizations we work with in helping sit down and solve this together. Some of the programs that we support are, as I mentioned, the Fab Foundation. We put, our goal was to put 10 labs in areas that we operate. We ended up with 15 labs, and those, again, it's digital fabrication tools. But once we put them in, we learned quickly that giving them the support, we provided 3 years worth of funding and teacher professional development. But because this is a new space for K-12, there isn't curriculum or there isn't integrated lessons to go with it. So we learned quickly that we need to help teachers understand that. Again, it's more stuff they have to do, and the easier we can make it, or the Fab Foundation, the more it will be used. We work with Project Lead the Way, which ties nicely with the Fab Labs. We also learned quickly that a lot of the areas that we operate in, students don't have the math skills. Somebody mentioned earlier the math skills to be able to do engineering type programs. But what we found is that providing them with things to make the math relevant, they learned it much quicker, much better. Again, the relevancy for it. We also learned that through a partnership with CalPass Plus, that girls in high school are that take high school Project Lead the Way courses are entering universities in engineering at a much higher rate, but they're dropping out at the exact same rate that girls that did not experience engineering in high school. So something's there. We also work with NSBE, NACME, National Society of Black Engineers, National Action Council, Society of Women Engineers. And again, we try to link all of these together so it's a holistic approach and encourage kids that may not have, again, these opportunities for this type of education. And then finally, I just wanted to close my slides with, this is a core value of Chevron. We have what's called a Chevron Way, and it's the principles of how our company runs. So what we do in social investment, as well as a company as a whole, is really guided by this. It's a document, but it's kind of, like I said, embedded through our whole company. And again, partnership is one of the top things that we stand for. And then the people strategies. So I talked a lot about kind of the K-12 and the before you get to work at Chevron, but we also know that educating and recruiting is one piece of it, but retention is another very large piece. So we have several employee networks, women's network. We have an executive women's group that also, and all of our networks have a volunteer component. We have the Hispanic network, the Black employee network, again, diversity networks, because we know that once you get to work, you still need to be supported. You still need to be around people that you can relate to. So I think we have like 15 networks with several thousand people that belong to them. Again, to try to continue to retain the employees even after they're educated and come to work at Chevron.
Thank you, Janet.